$100 million.
You heard the man, $100 million. Yes, that is what Donald Trump is investing into Aberdeen, as Donald Trump tries to make Aberdeen great again, guys. In this Football Manager 2021 experiment, so we're going to do a 5-year experiment. Basically, Donald Trump is the new owner of Aberdeen. He's the new sugar daddy. He's the new man with the money in his back pocket, and he's going to be splashing that money at Aberdeen. $100 million going into the club, and we're going to see, with that money, can Aberdeen challenge the Old Firm, and can they deliver a Scottish Premiership title within 5 years? So what we're going to do is we're going to go straight ahead and get the money transferred from Trump's bank account straight into Aberdeen's bank account. So let's go and do this. Let's go right into the finances. Alrighty, so we put 50 million into the transfer budget, we put 50 million into the bank balance, and then we took $500,000 out of the bank balance and put it in to the wage budget. We'll select Sugar Daddy. We'll go front end, because Donald Trump isn't a bum boy. He likes to go in the front, not the back. So yeah, fuck it, front end. Big Donald is going to take Aberdeen to new heights here, let's hope at least. So that is it set. Aberdeen are ready. Donald Trump is ready. Let's see if the Scottish Premiership is ready for the Donald. So for the first season, they still have Derek McInnes in charge. The league media prediction is 3rd place. 3-star reputation. They are in the Europa League. This is the best 11, the projected lineup that Aberdeen have. It's Lewis, a back three in McCrory, Constantine, Hoban, Kennedy, Johnny Hayes, Dylan Magoon, Lewis Ferguson in midfield, Fraser Hornby, Ryan Hedges, and Florian Camberry up front. So what we'll do is we'll just sim year by year, and we'll see how Aberdeen get on, and we'll see if they progress, and we'll see if they can get any closer to the Old Firm. First season, I'm not expecting too much, but after a year or two, once the money starts getting spent, I just want to see how good Aberdeen will be. Alright, so here we go, moment of truth time. Let's find out how Aberdeen got on in their first season. You can see their finances are still just secure. You'd think they would have went up to rich by now, but that is not the case. We can confirm that Derek McInnes is still the manager, so does that mean he's had a good season? Let's find out. First of all, we're going to check the transfers and see who Aberdeen brought in their opening season. So here you can see in a total of 39.5 million. Holy shit. I mean, Aberdeen probably haven't spent 39.5 million over the last 20 years combined, never mind in one season. So that just shows you there's a shitload of money that they've spent. In terms of players out, they've let go 5.25. But, I mean, part of that was Cosgrove and McKenna, which was 5 million between the two of them. So I don't think they've sold anyone of note, really, since that. They haven't. Neil McGinn left for 22.5k, but it's Matty Kennedy went out on loan. I guess that's a sign that maybe they brought in big players to replace them. So let's have a look here. Who have they brought in? We know about Fraser Horn, so there was 2 free transfers that I don't really know. They brought in Craig Halkett for Hearts for 210k, with a player exchange with Michael Dangana going the other way. So that's not a bad signing there. I think Craig Halkett is a solid player. Perhaps not what you'd expect, maybe, considering they have got like 100 million added to the club. I thought maybe they'd have bought somebody a bit, I don't know, more name value, maybe a wee bit more expensive than Halkett. But hey, Halkett's a decent signing. Then they got Ben Johnson, 9.52 million, potentially 12.5 million for West Ham. They also signed Nathan Phillips for Liverpool. They got him on the cheap, and he's now valued at 3.5 million, so that looks like a good bit of business for Aberdeen. Bringing in some good players here. Fastino and Joran for Chelsea on loan. Rise William from Liverpool on loan. They bought Tashan Oakley Booth for Stoke, 15 million, potentially up to 20 million. Jordan Houston in from Ayr. Thomas Callas for Bristol City, 2.6 million. Marco Stieperman for Norwich, 5.75 million. Alan Brown for Preston, and Yue Mite from Reading. So that's who they brought in. I mean, anything less than 3rd here will be a total failure for Aberdeen. Will they have closed the gap to the Old Firm? I doubt it over the case of a season, but we're about to find out. So let's see here whether they did it or not. And we will see now. And they didn't. Alright, okay, they finished 3rd. So they finished, 15 points behind Celtic. The title was only decided by 1 point, so Rangers bringing it really close to the end. They just couldn't get the job done against their bitter rivals. So Celtic get 10 in a row, complete it. Aberdeen, though, like I said, sitting in third place. Not exactly where they want it to be, but I guess this is the first time they've got third place in 3 years, so it's better than they've done previously. Plus, when you think about it, they were miles ahead of the team in fourth place. They finished 18 points ahead of Livingston, so that is a big gap. And Aberdeen, I think, have definitely made improvements this season, even though they only finished third. I think they can be happy with that, and I think they will close the gap on the Old Firm next season, especially if they continue to spend like they did. Goal difference was alright, I suppose 55 goals, 33 against. They conceded 7 goals against Rangers. Here, that's not bad. They only conceded 1 goal against Rangers over the 4 games that they played them. That is pretty good. That is pretty good indeed. So maybe they had Rangers' number. Whereas they scored 4 goals against Rangers, so I'm going to assume that Aberdeen beat Rangers quite a lot of times. Let's have a look then, see how they got on in the Cups and how they got on in the other competitions. So, didn't start the season well, lost a lot of games, got off to a horrible start in the Scottish Premiership. I mean, didn't have a win in their first 4 games, which is likely put them on the back foot straight away. Big loss to Celtic there. They got through the Europa League first half qualifying round 3-2. Then they beat FH in the second qualifying round before losing 4-0 to Sporting Lisbon. So they didn't make it into Europe. There'll be no extra money from that European perspective. But I mean, overall, I think they did alright to get to the third round. But I think they would maybe expect it to do a wee bit better against Sporting Lisbon. But you wouldn't think that Aberdeen would beat Sporting Lisbon. But maybe next season. Then they went on a good run in the Scottish Premiership. A lot of wins there, a lot of green. Beat Alloa in the Betfred Cup second round, then they beat Ross County in the quarterfinals on penalties. They did beat Rangers in the league 2-0 at Ibrox, so that's a massive win. Goals for Tommy Hoban and Elias Belhanassi. Let's see, what did they get? Betfred Cup semi-final. They beat Rangers again, and they beat them 2 weeks prior to the Betfred semi-final. So far, it has been 2 wins in the league for Aberdeen against Rangers, 1 win in the Betfred Cup and a draw. So Aberdeen have Rangers' number for sure. Beat them at home. A goal for Ross McCrory, former Rangers man. They lost in the Scottish Cup third round to Dundee United. That's a bit disappointing, especially considering they were at home. Goals for Powers and McNulty, getting the damage done to Aberdeen there. And they actually won the Betfred Cup final. So Aberdeen, in their first season with Donald Trump in charge, they have taken a cup. They've won the domestic cup. They've won the first cup available, the first trophy to win in Scotland available to the top flight, and they've won it by beating Aberdeen 3-1 in the final of that. Then they moved on, and they continued to have a strong end to the season, but obviously they were already knocked out the cup, and I think just due to the bad start in the league, they could never really put in a proper challenge. But overall, I think they can be happy with that. 1 season in, they've brought in a shitload of players, they've already won a Betfred Cup, they've established themselves as the third best team, and who knows, next season, I think they can go even further, so let's find out. Alright, so we're into season 2 then. Aberdeen, their transfers, they've spent a lot less money and they've made a lot less signings, but still, it's a bit positive. They spent 8 million, they brought in players, and in terms of players leaving the club, there is no one of real significance. Ojo and Bruce Anderson left, a bunch of players went out on loan, and Johnny Hayes has went back to Ireland where he'll start playing his football with Shamrock Rovers. They got 130k in on total from the transfers out there. And in terms of good players that they brought in, there's, I mean, to be fair, there's not that many. There's Sean Maguire for Preston, 1 million. Leif Davis for Leeds, potentially costing up to 6.75 million. Other than that, though, there's not a lot there. Danny Drinkwater on loan for Chelsea. Bit of a weird signing. A few players on loan for Chelsea and a few players on loan from Man City, including Cole Palmer and Luke Mabeti. But is that going to be enough to close the gap to Rangers Celtic? Just the 8 million spent? We'll find out. We'll see, and we'll have a look. And no, it didn't. No, so Aberdeen still remain in third place this time. A bit of good news and a bit of bad news. They've closed the gap to Rangers ever so slightly by 2 points, but the gap to the team that finished behind them in fourth has came down a bit as well. So it looks like they've closed the gap a wee bit to Rangers, but they've also had the gap to themselves closing. So that will be interesting. I did notice also that Rangers have sacked Gerrard, so we can see here, due to Gerrard not winning the league, and they got sacked due to poor league position. So back-to-back seasons they finished second, relatively close to Celtic, I think season 1 it was 1 point, season 2 it was 6 points, but that wasn't enough. So Gerrard gets sacked for that madness. Anyway, let's see how Aberdeen got on in the cups. Remember, they did win a domestic cup in their opening season, so we'll see if they won one now. Alright, so we're looking at the fixtures here, and straight away, all I see is madness. So Aberdeen in the Euro Cup League Path third qualifying round. They got drawn against Rangers. I didn't even think that was possible. I didn't think you could get drawn against a team for your own country, but they did. And they smashed Rangers 3-0 at home. They lost the second leg tie 2-1 at Ibrox, but it was still enough to knock Rangers out. So Aberdeen beating Rangers. They beat them 4 times last season, in the course of the season. And already this season they've knocked them out of Europe, so that's madness. Then in the Euro Cup playoffs, first leg, they beat Slavia and Bratislava by 3-0, and then drew with them in the away leg. So that means Aberdeen are in Europe and they will be playing European football. However, their journey in Europe didn't go too well from the Europa League. The Europa League journey campaign only got through the group stages. They didn't last very long. Finished 4th, one solitary win against Ludogorets. In a group that consists of Ludogorets, Rennes, and Sofia. It was always going to be tough for Aberdeen to qualify, and they didn't. So, it sucks for them, but again, I guess it was always next year. The fact that they qualified for it, in my sign, is a big improvement, so I don't think you can be too downhearted about that. Well, let's see how they did in the Cup. So, quarterfinals of the Betfred Cup, they beat Raith. Then in the semi-final of the Betfred Cup, they beat Partick Thistle. So again, they're making it to the Betfred Cup final. Again, they're against Celtic, but this time they can't retain their title. They lose. And they took it to extra time. They took the lead in extra time. They were so close, 3 minutes away from winning back-to-back Betfred Cups, but unfortunately, Connor Roberts equalised for Celtic, and then Celtic defeated Aberdeen 4-2 on penalties. So that's a bit of a bummer for them. December wasn't really a good month, losing the Betfred Cup final, getting knocked out of the Europa League, and drawing a shitload of games in the Scottish Premiership. It wasn't the greatest month. Scottish Cup 5th round, they won 3-0, and then they lost in the Scottish Cup the next round to Falkirk. That is very disappointing. Goals from Sean Rooney, Callum Smith, and Lee Miller. So Aberdeen failing to get past the 5th round of the Scottish Cup there. And even when they got into the Scottish Premiership Championship group, the results weren't really there. Only 6 points out of 15. Defeats coming against Hearts, Celtic and Rangers. So, it's 2 seasons in, Aberdeen, they've won 1 Betfred Cup, they've brought in a shitload of players, but they've still yet to beat either old firm team in the league. They've yet to do anything significant in Europe. They've made it to the group stage, but that's it. And the Scottish Cup, they've yet to have a good run, but they did win the Betfred Cup in the first season, so I wouldn't say it's been a disaster 2 seasons in, but I think Donald Trump maybe needs to spend a bit more of that money. Alright, so we're now into season 3, and again, the amount of money that Aberdeen spend has went down, and in terms of players going out, the amount of money that they've gained has went up, so I guess it doesn't matter that they've got big money, Donald Trump firing all the cash at the world at them. I guess they just don't want to spend. Maybe they're at the stage now where they feel they've got too good a team and they can't keep bringing players in, they can't keep spending money. Maybe they think they need to work with the team that they've got, and that could be true, but for this season, they haven't really brought anyone in. There's a bunch of frees. They've brought in Paul Dumbass, if you want to call him that, from Newcastle on a free. They've spent 4.2 million on Martin Linz. I've no idea who he is, a Norwegian right back. And then there's other players here. James McAtee on loan for Man City. Rhys Williams, Nathan Barkster. A lot of loan players here from the Premier League. Players out. Ryan Hedges, Mikko Virtanen. Again, players out, not a lot there. Matty Kennedy's went on loan to Glentoran. Really? He's only valued at 1.8k? That's fucking insane. So he's valued at 1.5k, but he's on $3,000 a week? That doesn't seem right. I guess they've got loads of money now, so they can afford to pay these guys whatever they want, but I mean, that just does not seem right at all. How can a guy that's valued at 1.8k be getting $3,000 a week? Aberdeen are seriously fucking spending money again. But then again, I guess they've got it thanks to Donald Trump. Anyway, there is the new signings for season 3. Is that going to be enough to win the league? I don't think so. Let's find out. We'll get to the league table. And it's not. again, Aberdeen for the third season in a row, they finish third. Although this time they were only 1 point behind Rangers, so I guess they've closed the gap to Rangers, but you could argue it's got more to do with Rangers having a bad season than it is to do with Aberdeen improving, because I think this is Aberdeen's lowest points tally since the 3 years we've been doing it, and it's definitely Rangers' lowest points tally for sure. So, I mean, it's not really the greatest season, is it? Even Aberdeen, even Celtic, sorry, didn't even have a great points tally, only 81 points. Like last season, they won it with 89. Rangers had 83, so Rangers are 10 points worse off than they were last season. Aberdeen do close the gap to second place Rangers, but again, it's only 1 point, and they still finish third. So I think Celtic again win it. That's 12 in a row for Celtic. If Aberdeen are going to win the league in the next 2 seasons, I think they need to make signings, and I think they need to spend the cash and start bringing in the big money players that they were at the start of the season. Let's see here who they have. Let's have a look at their squad. In terms, we'll look at from value wise. So they've got Lewis Ferguson, who stayed at the club now, valued at 12 million. That's insane. Ross McCrory's valued at 10 million. Tom Stansfield's on loan, 11.5 million. I mean, they've got a good team here. It's a solid team, there's no doubt about it. But they need to, I think they need to be doing better. They must have signed Alan Campbell, who's a solid player from Motherwell, 5.25 million. I mean, the team is good. They've got Liam Lindsay, who's valued at 5.5 million. It's solid. Like, they are, don't get me wrong, they've got a solid team, but is the team good enough to beat Rangers? Evidently, so far it hasn't been. Can they do it? Can they beat Rangers? Can they beat Celtic? They've got 2 years to try and win this league under the Make Aberdeen Save Great Again with Donald Trump here. So let's see how they got on then in the other competitions. Betfred Cup second round, terrible. I mean, first 2 seasons that they got to the final. First season they won it. This season they got knocked out in the earliest stage possible, second round, thanks to Hamilton. They did get through the Europa League playoffs. They got into Europa League again, and in the group stage, it was another disappointing group stage for them. Only 1 win out of 6, just like last year. Albeit this group was tough. Look at that: Marseille, Wolves, and Acer Alkmaar. It was always going to be difficult. I wonder who Aberdeen got the win over. It was Acer Alkmaar, a home win. 1-0 at Pataudry. Disappointing, I guess, to only get the 1 win, but again, when you were in a group with Wolves and Marseille, it was always going to be difficult, and I guess Aberdeen just didn't have what it takes. You see a lot of losses here. Then, I don't know what happened in here. Must have been a big gap. Must have been a Olympics on or some shit like that, but Aberdeen losing a lot of games there in the friendlies. Scottish Cup 4th round, they beat Arbroath, and then in the Scottish Cup 5th round, they beat Celtic, so I mean, they got beat by Celtic, so losing in the Scottish Cup 5th round, losing in the second round of the Betfred Cup, disappointing in the Cups there, only got 1 win in the Europa League group stage, and finished third again with a very low points tally. Not good for Aberdeen at the end of season 3. I'd say easily the worst season they've had. You'd think they'd be progressing, but this season they definitely went backwards. Can they do any better in season 4? I think it's going to take some big money signing, so let's see if they've brought any in. Season 4, the penultimate season of this experiment. Can Aberdeen turn it around? Well, it doesn't look like it, because they've went even lower in terms of transfer money spent. Only 3.5 million this year, with the only significant signing being Kevin Wimmer from New York, 3.1 million, possibly rising an extra million. Again, there's more players coming in on loan, especially from the Scottish Premiership. I mean, from the English Premiership. I think it's a bit strange that they've loaned a Rangers player, a team that they'd be wanting to compete against. But here, who am I to judge? Derek McInnes can sign whoever he wants, really. And not many people leaving, apart from Leah Davis, who left for 1.2 million. Even though I'm pretty sure they spent a hell of a lot more than that on him when they first brought him in. They brought him in on season 2. Yeah, they spent 6.5 million, then they sold him for 1.2. So that's a bad bit of business, considering the guy's only 24. That's terrible. Aberdeen have really shafted themselves there, but I guess they've got loads of money, so they don't need to worry about doing things properly financially. Right, let's see how they go on though in season 4. Let's find out. Have they done? No, oh my god, they've actually went backwards. They finished 4th. They've lost it in 3rd place to Hearts. Their lowest points tally by an absolute mile, only 59 points. They finished a whopping 24 points behind Rangers this season. Last season they finished 1 point behind them. This season they finished 24. and Celtic again won the league, this time with a points tally in 92. So I don't know what's happened to Aberdeen. They've went backwards big time. We'll check how they got on in the other competitions. The Euro Cup second leg playoff, they got through to that. They got into the group stages. This time they did a wee bit better. They were unlucky not to go through. Very unlucky not to go through, actually. They picked up 2 wins and 2 draws. That gave them 8 points. But unfortunately, that 8 points wasn't enough to get them through. And they missed it by 1 point to VfB Stuttgart, it was a pretty tough group. Braga, Stuttgart, Red Star Belgrade. I mean, I think they did well to get 8 points out of that group, and they were unfortunate not to go through. But we'll see how they go on in the other competitions. They beat Hearts in the Betfred quarter-final. They beat Ayr in the semi-final. And they went on again to win the Betfred Cup final. So that is 2 Betfred Cups in 4 years. That's not bad. That's pretty good. I mean, that is good from Aberdeen. I mean, I don't think they'll be happy with their league performances, but domestic-wise, at least in the Betfred Cup, they've did well. Scottish Cup, they've yet to make any sort of mark, so we'll see if that will change this year. And it won't. Scottish Cup 4th round, they've been knocked out, so that sucks for them. Knocked out by Motherwell, but for some reason, hold on a second. For some reason, they went into Euro Cup 2. So the teams that come 3rd place in the Europa League 1 get knocked into this. That must be how it works. So if you come 3rd in the Europa League group stages, you get knocked into the Europa League Conference. So similar to how the Champions League kind of works. I'm assuming that must be how it goes. Strange, very strange, but hey, I don't make the rules. So they were in the Europa League Conference, and they got through the 1st round knockout leg of that by beating Banik Ostrava. Then they had got Soira next round, and they got knocked out. I think they'll be disappointed to lose to them. A team from Ukraine. Never heard of them in my life. I mean, they've got some good players. Got Marian Shed, the former Celtic player, I believe. Yeah, he used to play for Celtic, so he's a pretty decent guy, but I think Aberdeen would have wanted to do a bit better against them, but they didn't, guys, and that is how they've ended season 4. They've got one more season to try and win the league here with their big money, but at the moment they're not doing it. Let's have a look at the general. The finances are still secure. How much money have they got? Let's have a look at the details. Finances. So, I mean, the bank balance is still pretty good, and the transfer budget is huge. So, I mean, there's no reason why they can't spend money and try and compete with the Old Firm. They've trimmed the squad down a hell of a lot. I mean, they might not have the biggest squad, but there's a lot of big players in there. It is a good team. I think to try and challenge with the Old Firm, I think they will need a couple, at least 2 or 3 big signings. And unfortunately for them, the last couple of seasons they haven't made them. But maybe they will. Maybe they will next year, and maybe they will be able to challenge. Let's find out. So here we go, last season. Let's see if Aberdeen can finally win the title, or can even make an improvement. Maybe even get 2nd, do better in the Scottish Cup, and maybe go further in Europe. We will find out. Even maybe just get close. Maybe even finish 3rd, but get closer to whoever wins the league. That's any sort of progress would do. So again, in terms of players in, they spent 6.5 million, not a lot, but for the first time in this experiment, they've actually sold more. The players out have generated more money than the players coming in, and that is not a good sign straight away. They sold Yakut Meat to Trabzonspor for 10.5 million. That makes up for most of the 12. Basically, I mean, I can't see Aberdeen doing anything this season based on how they've been previous seasons. They've not brought any significant players in, I think, to challenge, so I think they'll be lucky to finish 3rd. Let's find out where they came. And it was 4th again. 4th, 5 points off of 3rd place Hibs this time, and nowhere near the top 2. Celtic winning the league with 95 points. Celtic finishing 35 points ahead of Aberdeen. That's mad. So it just goes to show you that it doesn't matter. You give Aberdeen money and they still can't win the league. They still bottle it. Aberdeen bottling it for life. Let's see how they got on in the other competitions. Europa League qualifying round, 3rd path. They lost to Casapaza, then beat them in the next leg. They beat Aris to get through to the group stage. In the groups, they actually got through the Europa League 2 group stage, so that's good. We'll see how they get on then in the next round. They got through a group of Fazas, Olympia, and Rostov. First knockout round, they advanced past Ludogorets. So that's not... No, wait, that's Hearts. Hearts beat Ludogorets. What did Aberdeen do? Aberdeen still got through. They beat the young boys. Something Celtic are pretty good at doing. Aberdeen smashed them as well. So Aberdeen, I guess, have got something in common with Celtic, and it's actually smashing the young boys. It's not winning league titles. Here we go. Second knockout round. Aberdeen lost to Arsenal. You can't really blame them too much there, can you? 4-1 on aggregate. Nah, I can't hold that against them. You wouldn't expect them to beat Arsenal, if we're being honest. Right, Betfred Cup quarter-final. They normally do well in the Betfred Cup, but they've lost to Hibs in the quarter-final. Disappointing for them. And in the Scottish Cup, let's see. Scottish Cup 5th round, they beat Alloa 2-0. I think the quarter-finals is the furthest they've got, I think, since they started, and they beat Kilmarnock 3-0, so they're on a roll here. Could they go further? Scottish Cup semi-final, nah, they lose at Hampden to Hibs. They lose by 2-1, and then they don't win another game all season. 4 draws in the league, followed up by a 4-1 defeat to Celtic on the last game of this season. So guys, that's it. There's the experiment. Big Donald Trump came in with his money, tried to make Aberdeen great again, and it didn't matter. 100 million he put into the club, and they still couldn't close the gap to Celtic and Rangers. If anything, the gap's got further from the start of the first season to the end of the 5th one. So all these Sheep fans, all these Aberdeen fans thinking they should be challenged for the title in real life. I mean, this kind of just goes to show that the teams in Scotland, they are miles behind the old firm. They are years and years and probably decades behind the old firm. And unless you get some sort of minor miracle, no one's going to beat the old firm. No one's going to win the league from outside of Glasgow. And by Glasgow, I'm not even including St Mirren or Partick Thistle. Those guys have got no chance either. But anyway, that is it. Celtic have won all the titles. Aberdeen have won nothing. They've won 2 Betfred Cups, but really, Donald Trump puts 100 million into Aberdeen, and all they can return is 100 million. As Donald Trump would say, that's not good business. And I'm surprised he never said this to Derek McInnes. You're fired. I mean, that's personally what I would have went with, but nah, he didn't. So that's it, guys. That's the experiment over. Aberdeen failed. We'll maybe do another one. Maybe we'll do a if Rangers go bankrupt experiment, and we'll see how far Rangers can drop down the league. Maybe if Rangers have no money, maybe the teams behind them can actually catch them. But then again, if we do Rangers bankrupt, then fuck, it's probably going to be about 200 titles in a row for Celtic. So we don't want to see that. Anyway, that is it. Till next time. Peace.